The revenue from the export of ferrous metals in Ukraine increased by 31%. Alexander Yaroslavsky paid a debt to the ore mining and processing enterprise Sukhaya Balka and significantly reduced the price for DNP. Rusal closes its plants due to US sanctions. Donald Trump launches a campaign to isolate Iranian metal. The main events in the metal market of the past week in the weekly review of Metal News. The program is supported by the Techenergoprom Group. By results of 7 months of 2018, electrometallurgical plant Dnepropetrovsk received a loss from operating activities of more than 137 million hryvnias, Vitaly Kornievsky said in an interview posted on the company's corporate website. Among the reasons for the plant's unprofitable work is a drop of demand for high-margin products of Dnepropetrovsk from Ukrainian machine-building enterprises, a reduction in direct orders from the Russian Federation, extremely low level of domestic consumption of metal products in Ukraine, and an increasing share of imports. Also, the reasons for the plant's unprofitable are improving of the US customs duty and the intensification of competition in Europe. In connection with this, the extremely high energy prices in Ukraine, the deficit of carbon scrap and stainless waste, the transition to more significant amounts of imported scrap with a significant price increase. So, the increase in costs in the first half of 2018 compared to the first half of 2017 for the purchase of basic types of raw materials and scrap amounted to more than 110 million hryvnias. Negative impact on the situation and the outflow of qualified personnel. Dnepropetrovsk is the only manufacturer in Ukraine of long products and forgings made of special steel grades, stainless, tool, high-speed, bearing, structural and also heat-resistant nickel-based alloys. Shareholders of the plant are associated with VS Energy International, the beneficiaries of which are several Russian entrepreneurs, including State Duma Deputy Alexander Babakov. Metallurgical enterprises of Ukraine from January till July 2018 increased revenues from exports of ferrous metals by 30.5% compared to the same period of 2017, up to $6.2 billion. According to the customs statistics released by the State Fiscal Service, ferrous metals accounted for 23.07% of the total volume of revenues from export of goods for this period against 19.91% in the 7 months of last year, Interfax Ukraine reports. Including in July, receipts from exports of ferrous metals amounted to $802.25 million. At the same time, Ukraine from January till July 2018 increased the imports of similar products by 24.1% to $752.05 million. In July, this figure was $123 million. In addition, from January till July 2018, Ukraine increased the export of metal products by 33.8% to $638.1 million. In July, they were delivered by $98.12 million. During this period, imports of metal products increased by 17.9% to $503.55 million. In July, the import of metal products sharply increased in comparison with the previous month by 42.4% to $93.47 million from $65.61 million. As reported, the European Union, after imposing duties on steel and aluminium, and the US announced the imposition of restriction on the import of 23 types of steel products, including 11 from Ukraine. Supplies above the average for last year will be subject to a duty of 25%. DCH Group of Alexander Yaroslavsky in the first quarter of 2018 paid the remaining $15 to the Russian company Yevraz from the amount of the transaction for the purchase of ore mining and processing enterprise Sukhaya Balka, plus $3 million of dividends. In May 2017, Yevraz began the procedure of the sale of Sukhaya Balka to the DCH Group. The deal was to be closed before the end of last year, but in December 2017, Yevraz received only $94 million instead of $109 million. In addition, according to the financial statement of Euraz, the company sold 97.73% of the Dnipro Plant shares for $35 million. But at first, the deal was about $106 million. Payment is made in several installments. The first $25 million must be paid within 5 working days after the signing of the contract of sale. The rest of the amount must be paid no later than December 2018. In this case, according to the company, Euraz recognized the loss from the sale of DNP in the amount of $10 million, as well as $60 million cumulative losses from exchange rate differences. The sale of the Dnipro Metallurgical Plant in the first half of 2018 completes the implementation of Euraz's strategic decision to exit Ukraine in order to focus on the development of key assets in Russia and North America, the Russian company's financial statement emphasizes. In August, Rusal began the conservation of the electrolysis capacities of the Nadvoidsky aluminum plant, which operated from April to the warehouse because of sanctions. After the imposed sanctions of USA, the Nadvoidsky aluminum plant lost its sales markets and stable supplies of raw materials. The plant's products were not in demand because the production was completely oriented to the American market. Therefore, since April 2018, NAP works only in the warehouse, generating significant losses. In connection with the situation in which NAZ appeared after the imposition of sanctions, in order to reduce losses, Rusal is forced to start in August the conservation of electrolysis capacities of the NAP. President of the United States Donald Trump reminded the business that after the restoration of US sanctions against Iran, it will be necessary to choose with whom to continue to maintain relations, with Iran or United States. Iranian sanctions officially came into force. These are the most sensitive sanctions ever imposed. In November, they reached up to yet another level, he tweeted. Anyone doing business with Iran will not be doing business with the United States. I'm asking for world peace, nothing less. Western media specify that, through restrictive measures, trade with Iranian counterparts will be stopped with aluminium, steel, graphite, coal and a number of computer programs for industrial enterprises. Washington's goal is to cut off Tehran from the currency and major commodity markets to stop the growth of Iran's political and military influence in the Middle East. Over 7 months of 2018, Turkey increased its export of metal products by 2.4% compared to the same period last year to 11.1 million tons, according to the materials of the Association of Turkish Exporters Association. Steel exports to the European Union countries rose to $3.6 billion, to the Middle East $1.4 billion. The export of Turkish steel products to African countries rose to $1 billion. Deliveries of metal from Turkey to the United States for 7 months of 2018 decreased by 44.6% to 0.765 million tons. In monetary terms, exports decreased by 31.2% to $552 million. In July 2018, China reduced its exports of metal products by 15% compared to June to 5.9 million tons. On an annual basis, the decline was also 15%. Thus, China's steel exports declined for the first time since January this year. In addition, in July it reached a minimum since April. In general, from January till July of 2018, China reduced steel supplies to foreign markets by 14% to 41.31 million tons. According to market sources, the July decline was in line with expectations as orders for July shipments, which were mainly carried out in May-June, declined due to higher steel prices in China. You are watching Metal News. Indicative prices for the current positions by the end of the reporting week look like this. You have watched Metal News. Subscribe to the channel, join us in social networks to be aware of the main events of the metal market.